In 20XX is a journey into the singularity year by year. Based on hard science, this series showcases emerging tech and searches for what is possible. The story changes as tech evolves. Rate the show so others can find it. Cautionary listening is advised.
The residents of the Nursery colony risk their lives whenever they venture outside into the bottom of the canyon. They do so to salvage batteries, searching through layers and layers of wreckage that the storm winds have dropped. As it becomes harder to find batteries outside, they search in the buried scrapyard, but tunneling through scrap takes too long. They can't find enough batteries to keep everything powered. There are plenty of solar panels, but the storm coats them with dust in a few hours. The colony runs out of power, and they must turn off 2 cooling units. The robots' batteries drain, and the robots shut down. Unable to make liquid sunlight anymore, the inhabitants watch the aeroponic crops die. Fresh carrots, corn, grapes, and spinach run out. Mars assembles a new whiskey distillery just in time for the colony to lose the ability to grow corn. As much as he feels he must have his whiskey, he can't have it, and life goes on. Without rapid grow hemp, they no longer have brew meats, brew milk, and brew egg mixture. Long gone are the days of potluck Tuesdays. French toast for breakfast is a distant dream. Luckily, they can still use power sippers like canal links, AR glasses, and Brit lights. Mars assembles a hand-crank flywheel generator for charging. Of the 52 who originally took shelter here, 19 remain, 18 adults and 1 child. Everyone spends some time cranking the flywheel as they charge their electronics, including the batteries they use to run their cool suits. Kylo keeps microbe engineering equipment running by pedaling a bike to turn a generator 5 hours a day. She must keep the equipment running to keep microbe families alive. If the devices sit dormant for too long, they won't ever work again. Others help her by pedaling the bike, but not nearly as much as she does. Kylo enters the bioengineering room on level 2 at 7 in the evening, her bare arms glistening. With a charged hand-crank wand, she touches 2 Brit lights on the ceiling to light them. Checking the sequencer, DNA writer, and incubators, she wears her cool suit. The one-piece suit hangs past her butt and includes a hood. Under the suit, she wears light mycelium shorts and a t-shirt. The suit keeps her core and head cool, but her face, arms, and legs take constant heat. With a fresh filter in her respirator, breathing is easy for now. Waving around a spray bottle while pumping the cap, she fills the air with an engineered microbe mist that gobbles up carbon, methane, particulates, and pathogens. As she empties a bug trap into a bucket, she bangs the bucket on the ground a few times, then seals it with a lid. Bugs that try to crawl up the bucket walls fall back before the lid closes. Meanwhile, her imagination churns with memories of high school. As a teen, she obsessed about death. To get ready for school, she painted her arms and face white. In history class, Anthony Nolan, a wrestling jock, leaned over and asked her, "Did you do the homework?" Sitting erect, she said, "How could I when I'm already dead?" To her devastation, everyone sitting around her burst out laughing. Even the teacher smirked. People made fun of her. The memories of all those people come back to her. Those people are all gone. She's alive and they aren't. It turns out the dead girl is the only one still alive. Why is she still alive? Is there one decision she made that saved her? One of the owls flies in and perches on the server. It scans the room, swoops, and returns to its perch with a baby snake in its beak. At the monitor, she runs diagnostics on the computer. Equipment has become finicky. Time and again, her anxiety comes back because if any part of the bioengineering equipment fails, it could jeopardize the lives of everyone. The young owl pivots its head and stares at her. Looking at an AR note, she decides what microbes she needs to make most. They need more blueberry meal yeast. She sends the DNA file to the protein printer, walks to the incubator station, and examines the trays of stock microbes. After a few kills, the owl flies out of the room. At 9 o'clock, she gets on the bike and pedals. It's slow and hard at first until the flywheel builds up speed. Her bike has gears and she starts on the lowest speed. Once the flywheel reaches a velocity she can maintain, she can rest for a few seconds while the wheel maintains a constant speed. The flywheel comes from a truck and was used for regenerative braking. Mars spent days adjusting its weight and balance. Magnets on it pass wires and generate a current. In her high school, when she walked down the hall, people would say, "I'm already dead," and laugh. When someone for yearbook staff approached her and said she was voted most likely to join a cult and asked to take her picture, she shook her head and walked away. She held back her tears until late that night. All those people are gone. The only one still alive to keep their history is a girl they made fun of. How meaningless is that? Is that the reason any of them came into existence? The air grows cooler. At 10, she hears the doors over well 3 rolling open. The echo of clanking fills the tunnels. She switches off her cool suit and soon feels a draft. Now the temperature drops faster, but she continues to sweat as she pedals. Pedaling 5 hours a day may have seemed like a nuisance under different circumstances, but it's nothing less than what she needs to do to keep herself and her fellow survivors alive. The newest and third well reaches 10 levels down. It's 3 times wider than the first 2 wells and bone dry. A shaft in its roof leads to doors that open at night to release heat. All 3 wells have platforms made of planks on each level. The planks are spaced wide enough for a hand to fit through, allowing floodwater to pass easily. When the vent doors open, drafts of hot air going up and cold air coming down whistle through the gaps. Water from the last flash flood remains in the first 2 wells. After the flood, the water reached past the 3rd level. Now the waters, muddy and smelling rank, don't reach past level 8. The last flood came over a year ago. Who can say when the next rain will come? The colony relies on floodwater, but the 2 older wells have nearly run dry. As another month goes by without rain, people grow anxious. The water has become difficult to filter. It takes many more mycelium filter sheets to clean. People now collect their sweat. They have bottles with elongated openings they squeegee across their skin. They save their pee and run that through filters. Floor level 2 is below level 1. Level 2 rooms are quieter and less cluttered. Carved out with care, they have higher ceilings, flatter floors, gentle curves, and mock brick carved into stone. These spaces are long and roomy. Barrel ceilings cover the narrow tunnels. In well 3, Trey and Trinidad, both in their 50s, stand where stairs are carved into the curved wall. Each step is half a meter high. A hall at the base of the stairs opens to the main tunnel on level 2, where a pile of stones of different shapes and sizes waits. Taking a stone from the pile, they fit it to make a step, placing it, removing it, and chiseling it to make it fit better. They need to make 3 shorter steps to bridge the gap between the half-meter steps. Trinidad says, "I don't think you'd like me if the storm hadn't come." Trey purses his lips. "Really? Why?" "I love to vacation." "That's not so bad." Though everyone wears respirators most of the time, their canal links with voice-clarifying machine learning make people's voices clear to each other. She turns her face to him and smiles with her eyes, causing fine smile lines to fan out. "I live to vacation, to travel. I like living out of a suitcase." A Brit light panel hanging from the bottom of the platform above flickers to darkness. Trey takes a charge wand out of his pocket, cranks it, and touches it to the light. The light comes on again. Trinidad chisels and brushes the stone with a rag. Trey helps her lift it. Stone dust covers their clothes and hair. The others call them a couple, but in truth, Trey and Trinidad haven't slept together. They haven't even kissed. Trinidad recently lost her children. Water is running low and people fear the end days may be near. The air either bakes or freezes. It's barely breathable. For now, the most they have done is hold hands. Trey changes footing. "Are your A? Are glasses giving you trouble today?" They stopped working. "Why are you wearing them?" "Oh, they're prescription. I actually need them to see." Trey pulls the stone back. What? I forgot about that. I didn't know that was still a thing. Why didn't you get your eyesight fixed? Trinidad shrugs. Never got around to it. Trey laughs. I guess that's why your eyes look large. The only child still alive, Kodak, climbs down the ladder in the well from level 1. He sits against the far wall and watches them. Sure, he's somewhat disconcerting. Now 8 years old, the child hasn't spoken a word for over a year and has a habit of staring at people for long periods. Trinidad and Trey keep working, trying to act like he isn't there. It isn't the first time they worked under the eyes of that sullen, silent boy. On the other side of the well, his face falls in shadow, but his eyes pierce the darkness. Tanya climbs down the ladder. She's gotten dangerously skinny. The deep creases between her eyebrows seem frozen in place. Kodak flashes a glare at her before returning his stare to the stonemasons. Quivering, she sits an arm's length from Kodak and watches him. Where is your mother, Kodak? He ignores her. Tanya lost 3 kids. She says, I never see you with your mother? Does she take good care of you? I'm worried is all. Trinidad glances at Kodak and finds an angry stare. Her head jumps back and she looks down. Chisel, chisel, chisel. Tanya scoots closer to Kodak. I can give you my water rations. Are you thirsty? Trey says, leave him alone. Trinidad ducks her head. Tanya lunges for Kodak. You can call me Mom. Would you like that? Kodak leaps up and runs past Trinidad and down the hall. Tanya remains in the well, folding into a ball and shaking with sobs. On the surface, Daisuke and Marley wear helmets, crash gear, and harnesses clipped onto cables that run across the ground. They can't walk upright. Standing on layers of insect-infested debris, winds shove and tug them relentlessly. The 9 o'clock darkness makes it hard to see. Their helmets sound cancel the howling winds. Daisuke says, I don't think as much stuff falls as before. Squatting, Marley shifts his weight from his left foot to his right. I thought that too. Where they step, items often give way. Sometime one of them sinks into a cave-in and must climb out. Winds have thrown them. Moving just a meter takes a lot of work. Daisuke holds a drill above his head and against a cliff wall. The end of the drill emits plasma bursts that strip the stone of bonds, and the stone turns to dust where he presses. He can drill a deep hole in 20 seconds. After hanging the drill on his harness, he inserts a tube into the hole. The end he inserts contains a G-biotic serum. By pushing a plunger on the outer end, he injects the serum. The serum saturates and dissolves the stone. Further down the cliff wall, Marley drives a rod into a hole Daisuke made earlier. The rod contains a narrower rod. When fully inserted, he uses a wrench much like a riveter that fits on the end of the outside rod and pulls the inside rod. When pulled, the inside rod splits and curls the end of the wider rod. The microbe-dissolved rock crumbles and the rod curls expand inside the cliff wall. When the rod is secured, he cuts the inner rod off and bolts a heavy-duty loop made of woven graphene tube to the end. He turns around and steps over the safety cable he's clipped to. The wind continually animates the environment. Items large and small swirl and flip about. He knows he's a paranoid. How many times has he grabbed his gun because he's heard a noise of seen movement in shadows? Ever since he was a kid, his eyes have made him see people when no one was there. A home invader turned out to be a coat hanging on a hook. The objects dancing in the winds elicit this type of hallucination from him often. He sees the wraith of a femme climb out of the entrance hole to the tunnels, stand and fly up, swirling in loops. He laughs openly. Daisuke says, What is it? I saw one of my ghosts. Anyone we know? A vampire, I think. The second level and the bottoms of the wells offer the most comfortable temperatures, but that isn't saying a lot. Daytime heat penetrates the 3 to 5 meters of debris, seeps through the ground, and heats the tunnels like ovens. Humidity thickens the air, preventing sweat from evaporating. People apply a lotion that releases oxygen to pull heat off their bodies. They wear cool suits, made from cooling units they removed from scrap robots. Everyone must charge batteries to run the cool suits. They attach card deck-size Brit lights on the front and the back of their suits to light their surroundings. Under the suits, They wear simple pants and shirts made of mycelium fabric. Everyone wears respirators and carries spray bottles of a probiotic that cleans the air. At least one mushroom growing rack in each room sucks carbon out of the air and releases oxygen. To sleep through midday, people climb down the ladders in well 3 and crawl into small tunnels. They come out in the evening. At the coldest hours of night, doors above well 3 open. Cold air rushes in and hot air rushes out. When the doors first open, debris falls in. Anyone in the well on level 1 when the doors are open must wear a harness because the winds are strong. As the temperature in the well drops, drafts carry heat from the rooms into the well. Bonnie carries a soft tank of methane and a bucket of pest meat down the main hall on level 1. This tunnel is badly dug compared to more recently carved spaces. The floor is buckled and there are no corners between floor and wall and ceiling. The mycrete inner shell is uneven throughout. People simply threw globs of mycrete against the ceiling and walls and waited for it to dry before throwing more. Insects, reptiles, snakes, and rodents venture through this tunnel. Spiders cluster on the walls. Lizards dart and freeze, dart and freeze. The dog-goat chimera eats from a pan of food scrap. Even through noise canceling, Bonnie can hear great whooshes that shake the earth outside. It sounds like the planet is passing through pressure washers the size of Jupiter. She wears earplugs. When Bonnie's face is relaxed, it holds a sternness around the mouth and eyes. She ducks into a cramped tunnel that leads up to a long room, House 2. This is one of the originally half-buried buildings that debris fully buried in a short period. It contains a lot of unused equipment. In some places, she must climb over machines, including the dismantled remains of a quantum computer. On all surfaces where dust is undisturbed, it can get more than a centimeter thick. The floor has 5 centimeters of dust on it. Cleaning bots aren't working, so this problem will only get worse. The roof sits deep under layers of debris. The raging winds high above drop things, and those things softly thud. She reaches with her hand crank wand, and when she passes under a Brit light, she drags the wand across it, and it turns on. An owl in the corner spreads its wings, glides past her, and flies out of the room. At the stove, she attaches the methane tank. Mars converted this stove to burn methane. The methane comes from a larger tank where anaerobic bacteria feed off food waste. As midnight approaches, the temperature drops. It feels real nice. She unzips her cool suit and rubs her neck. "I have a proposition." Bonnie freezes. It's Tanya speaking. "I said I have a proposition." Bonnie says, "Let me be, Tanya." She feels her head move with rapid breathing. Tanya climbs over things to approach. "Why don't I adopt Kodak? You don't seem to be that much into parenting." Bonnie sneers and turns to face Tanya. "I don't believe in smothering my children the way you did." Her vision blurs with tears. Tanya stops mid-step. "You can still visit him." Bonnie says, "I'm sorry for your loss, but you must leave Kodak and me alone. I'm calling Mars. Assist, call Mars." Tanya turns around. No, I'm going." Her voice sounds lost, like someone who's forgotten who she is. Bonnie bends over and grips the stove with all her might. The stove shakes. Mars answers, "Hey, Bon, what is it? Bon, you're killing me, what is it?" Kodak runs down level 1 main tunnel to the end. The exit is near and wind currents tug him. Anything that can move undulates. Here is where all inanimate objects come to life. He sits by the catapult, plucks beetles off the ground, and eats them. Tanya walks down the center of the tunnel. She wears a long coat that flaps more furiously the closer she gets to the exit. She stops near Kodak and watches him, but he refuses to look up. More than a minute passes. Outside, something creaks and moans. Another object clangs asymmetrically. He looks up and sees her. They both stare at each other. She raises a hand and waves by wiggling her fingers. He continues to watch as she drops her hand, turns, walks to the exit, and climbs skyward. 10 owls live in the tunnels. They hunt snakes, lizards, and mice. Blenda has trained 2 to hunt scorpions. People put up perches in different spots, and the owls have learned to fly down the wells. There was a small population of bats, but the owls ate them all. Rats and mice stay out of sight. They live in great numbers between the layers of debris covering the land outside. Insects, scorpions, and spiders don't invade level 2 as much as level 1, but they do get in. People have grown used to swatting bugs and keeping an eye out for the ones that bite. Centipedes crawl up legs. Tick populations spread. Roaches seem to glide over surfaces. Beetles scuttle underfoot or fly blindly. Lizards and snakes come out from hiding places, the alpha predators of the very small. Instead of humans thinking of the small invaders as a nuisance, the humans now eat them. Insects are their salvation. Some bugs they eat outright like grapes plucked from a vine. They place bug traps throughout the caves and keep personal bug traps with them. Daily collected critters go in buckets half full of water and GM microbes that knock the bugs out, disinfect them, depoison them, and soften their hard parts. In the mycelium room, racks hold long trays where filters and fabrics are grown. Near the barrel vault entrance, Guinea sits at the sewing machine, pumping the foot pedal and pushing fabric under a gyrating arm. Mars modified the machine, adding a foot pedal to power it. In a chair salvaged from a flying ambulance, Billie Jean knits. One breed of mycelium can be pulled and spun into yarn. Clothes are grown much like filters are. On the flat surfaces of 1 meter by 4 meter trays, they spray liquid sunlight, then add drops of G fungi. Yes, they do make liquid sunlight for this. The amount needed is much less than what it takes to keep an aeroponics crop alive. In a day or two, a layer of mycelium covers the bottom of the tray. It peels off easily for someone to cut and sew into garments. They can salvage woven graphene tube wire from scrap and unravel it to make thread. Kylo enters and looks around. Has Daisuke been in here? She can't completely keep an accusatory tone out of her remark. Ginya slowly looks up, skin glistening. She shakes her head and swallows. Billie Jean pipes up. Hey, why are they making a net up there? Is it for safety? It seems like a lot of work. Kylo steadies her gaze on Billie Jean. Daisuke wants to make a microclimate. The net, or lattice as he calls it, will create cross-turbulence to make the winds cancel themselves out. Billie Jean smiles. So it'll be safer? Kylo walks out. Billie Jean and Ginya smile grimly at each other. Deep clanking and clapping sounds pass through the room from above. Ginya stops pedaling. Want to go? Billie Jean puts down her knitting. They stand and walk down a winding narrow tunnel to the wider tunnel to well 3. Inside the well, 3 others stand on the platform looking up. Machinery claps as the 3 heavy doors at the top roll back. Items clatter onto the platform above as wreckage from outside falls into the well. They stand with their backs pressed to the wall, faces tilted upward. Light streams through gaps in dust above. Footsteps and voices come down as people overhead move debris off the platform. Air moves almost imperceptibly, slightly cooler. From below, a baritone whistle grows louder and echoes. In the middle of the well, hot air rises. Meanwhile, cool air flows down the sides of the wall. Ginya sighs and gently laughs, like a cool glass of water. In a few minutes, the descending air grows cooler. Billie Jean says, I wish I could drink it. Kylo runs onto the platform, startling the others. Have you seen Tanya? Has anyone seen Tanya? Has she been crying? Shiny streams flow down her cheeks. Ginya says, I haven't. Kylo's steps echo off the planks. She's not here. You guys, I think she's gone. Like, really gone. Though they eat bug meat, they call themselves the mushroom eaters. Most of the vermin meat is turned into bug soil. Freshly caught pests are ground. Fertilizer recycled from food waste and septic tank solids is mixed in with the paste. Humans spread the resulting chunky paste over flats and spray it with a GM microbe mix that causes the paste to curdle. The curdling makes air spaces so microbes that breathe carbon and release oxygen can thrive. 1 centimeter of paste expands to 3 centimeters of compost or bug soil. They grow engineered mushrooms in the soil. These carnivorous mushrooms eat nematodes that flourish in the soil. The soil has an off-balance of much higher nitrogen than carbohydrates. Therefore, the mushrooms and bacteria are engineered to pull carbon out of the air and breathe out oxygen as they feed off the pest flesh. So as a side benefit, this type of farming makes breathable air. When the mushrooms bloom, they have names like sourdough, bacon, coffee, cashew, curry, strawberry, and cheese, depending on their texture, taste, and nutrients matching to their namesakes. Coffee mushrooms contain high amounts of caffeine and taste like mocha. Bacon mushrooms contain the same animal proteins as pig-grown bacon. Bonnie takes the initial ground bug paste and cooks it, making flattened wafers. The others now crave this high-protein treat. When Bonnie hands them out, people savor the meal. The third way the colony adds bugs to their diet is by putting the bug paste in a brew tank and letting GM microbes turn it into what they call blueberry meal. Blueberry meal has the texture of meat cake and tastes equally savory and sweet. People like to eat it for breakfast. With plenty of mushrooms, wafers, and blueberry meal, the colony eats well. They miss the grapes, corn, broccoli, and spinach they used to grow and long for the day when a power source will allow them to start aeroponics farming again. When the people of the nursery go to the bathroom, the excrement goes in a tank where anaerobic microbes break it down and make methane. The methane fills a bellows tank and can power Bonnie's stove and a small engine attached to the shared recharge station. When the contents of a methane tank don't make the gas anymore, they empty the contents and use it as high-grade fertilizer mixed in with the bug soil. Children used to outnumber adults. As the other children got sick and passed away, Kodak showed no signs of illness, but his happy, outgoing demeanor faded. He hasn't spoken for over a year. He slinks around like one of the scavenger animals. People won't admit it to each other, but that's what they think. For a while, everyone greeted him. Now they just glance at him and let him be. It's hard to imagine what's going through his brain. He sits next to the community charge station, turning the crank, watching the generator wheel spin. Bonnie brings him squares of blueberry meal and bottles of water. "Kodak, how are you? Do you want some food?" He continued to turn the crank and watch the wheel, giving no indication that he knows she's there. "I'll leave these here. Please take them." She sets the food and bottles on a table and leaves. Marley finds him at the end of the tunnel looking up through the hole leading to the outside. Marley walks toward him. "Hey, what are you doing? It's dangerous to stand there." The 8-year-old stares upward. "Hey, sport, I can't let you stand here like this. I'll go get your mother." Marley continues talking until, in a moment, Kodak runs down the tunnel away from the entrance. People notice that Kodak collects things, small odd things. Each night when the doors open over well 3 and debris falls in, he searches through and picks out random items: a key, a crayon, an earbud case. At the scrapyard, Mars pulls at a giant robot arm. They call it the scrapyard even though it's buried deep. He stumbles back as he stands. When he looks to his left, a pair of eyes throw him off balance. "Crap, kid, you scared the rat piss out of me." Squatting over the head of a robot, Kodak watches, holding a broken arm from a copter drone. Digging new tunnels and rooms involves 2 biotic mixtures. Remover degrades stone so it'll crumble, and builder turns packed dirt into a cement, seals cracks, and strengthens stone surfaces. The microbes that make these paints can be grown in muddy well water. Kylo makes plenty of remover and builder. The newest digging takes place on level 2. In a map view, rooms on level 1 follow the canyon floor, staying between the cliffs. But on level 2, rooms branch under the cliffs. Temperatures fluctuate less in these rooms. Those who dig get better at it over time. A carver will apply remover to a stone surface and break away up to 6 centimeters of stone the next day. Some make tunnels under the scrapyard for Mars, and in exchange he makes them hammers, chisels, hauling carts, and hoist assemblies. In the scrapyard, Kodak burrows into the scrap, leaving the access tunnel. Wearing a headlamp, he crawls into the one-person cab of a giant mining robot. His slight frame shifts carefully amid the gears and levers. From the last flood, silt, dust, and dried mud cover everything. Where he places his feet, caked dirt breaks off. He exits the cab through the opposite door, pushes aside some heat-sink window blinds, squeezes past a kiosk bot with a block for a lower half and torso, arms and head for an upper half, climbs over the heaped fabric shell of a blimp drone, and grabs onto a most mysterious-looking machine. He removes the silt with his thumbs. It has a perfectly reflective sphere center, thick glass tank, and mechanism sticking out from the sphere and the tank. Wires from the mechanisms connect to a box below the tank. He struggles to carry it back to his dugout. His eyes are ponderous, but his mouth is hard set. By the next day, he's cleaned the device and hooked it up to a field laptop and a battery. It's broken, and he can't figure out what it's used for. Accessing the firmware with the laptop, he discovers an operation manual that reveals that the device uses Bose-Einstein condensates to measure Earth's gravity at such a sensitive level it can map subterranean structures. This is a piece of mining equipment. He absent-mindedly brushes insects off his legs. After days of troubleshooting, he determines a laser used to Doppler cool a cloud of atoms doesn't work. After much trial and error, he tries adjusting the laser cavity length and finds he can get the device working again. The entire device was probably replaced when it could have been fixed. He gets it to freeze a cloud of atoms to a point where they behave like one quantum entity, exhibiting wave behavior that sensors can read to detect gravity differences in sweeping directions. Time disappears as his focus isolates him and this project from the rest of the world. The device sends a data stream to the laptop. He needs to write software to turn the data into a 3D map. His fingers fly on the keyboard, and every morning when Mars strikes a gong made from an old sea float, Kodak returns to the tunnels to eat dinner and sleep. Each evening after he wakes, he must charge a couple of batteries to power his tinkering. Weeks later, the device is on and making an animated image on the laptop screen that looks like the sweep of a radar arm illuminating objects as it passes. Only this isn't radar, and this isn't a reading of the air above the land. It's a series of Bose-Einstein condensates, revealing gravity passing through the subterrane. He can see where the bodies of humans, cattle, and dogs are buried. He can make out cars, quartz, gravel pockets, iron-rich earth, gold, a building foundation, and dinosaur bones. Yes, a series of bones reveal the remains of a long-necked dinosaur with a middle section as large as a city bus. The animated light reflects off Kodak's eyes in the dark as he sits with the patience of a predator watching its prey. When Daisuke and Marley have mounted 40 loops on both cliff walls, 80 in total, they attach cable across the space between the two cliffs. Most of the cable has been salvaged from sky cranes. Each bolt clip cable to a loop and make their way across to bolt clip it to an adjacent loop. Whirlwinds and chaotic currents blow through, but less debris falls from the sky. After years of the world storm, most loose items on Earth's surface have found settling places. They attach 3 cables to each loop. The 3 cables spread apart from each other and attach to different loops. Near the loops, they feed the cables through wheels attached to handles. By winding the wheels, they tighten the cables. A net takes shape above their heads. They can feel that it dampens the winds, but it's still the cliffs sheltering them from the winds for the most part. They attach crisscross cables running in the same general direction as the cliff walls. Things catch on the net. A lot of plastic catches and winds ripple the plastic. In the dark, it looks like sea moss whipping. They still need to wear harnesses, watch their footing, and hold on tight when a wind tries to lift them off the ground. They still forbid others from coming out here, but now they can stand half upright and look around. Looking at the sky above gives Daisuke vertigo. It looks like glaciers pass at heart-bursting speeds. Daisuke says, "Have you noticed something? The plants are thriving up here." Marley looks at the thick mats of grass and weeds cropping up in countless crannies. Rotting plants, layer after layer of dust and heat have made soil. "Yes. Is that good?" Daisuke plucks a stubby plant he's never seen before. "As a botanist, I should be thrilled to have the chance to see new ecosystems emerging." "You don't exactly sound thrilled." Bonnie wanders through the tunnels calling out, "Has anyone seen Kodak? I can't find him." In the level 2 main tunnel, she steps over 2 rolled rugs and some digging equipment. "Kodak, where are you?" Her voice dips into a moan. Kalo steps into the hall, dripping with sweat. "When was the last time you saw him?" In the morning before bed, Lane, Mercedes, and Caddy come into the hall. The corners of Bonnie's mouth hang like weights pull them down. "Have you seen him?" Mercedes glances from face to face. "I haven't seen him." Caddy pockets a chisel and folds her arms. "Look for his link." Lane air signals as he brings up his A. R. He gestures for a ping command and sees a cloud of connected devices. Hume links are clearly labeled. He air types Kodak. A list of offline devices with Kodak's link appears. His link isn't online. He probably hasn't charged it. Mercedes puts a hand on Bonnie's shoulder. We'll let the others know. They spread out. Everyone stops what they're doing and searches. They look behind piles of unused equipment, under tables and behind brew tanks. Several venture into the scrap yard, moving items, calling out, and shining lights into gaps. Mercedes stays by Bonnie's side. Groups climb down ladders, platform to the bottom of the wells. On group talk, people report. He's not in well 1. I've jumped into the water and felt around. He's not down here, Mars says. I've seen him go down the central tunnel a lot of times. It leads toward the middle of the scrap and under it. Mars heads down that tunnel holding an extra bright lamp. The tunnel bends and winds like intestine. The scrapyard groans and snaps. A meter-long lizard crawling out of a pipe gives him pause. He avoids it and goes around. In some places, scrap has fallen into the tunnel. The movement of countless insects gives the environment a non-physical quality. He sees an animated light ahead and dims his lamp. The light bouncing off machines and robot parts changes from blue to orange to yellow and back to blue. It pulses once every second. Kodak? The light comes from a dugout where floor mats have been placed. Hundreds of curious trinket-sized objects cover shelves inside a tool cabinet propped open. 2 humanoid robots lie flat, taken apart, their innards arranged according to how they fit together. Someone meticulously cleaned all the silt off them, inside and out. What makes the light is a quantum computer, also cleaned of silt, sitting at an angle, nested in a pile of algae farming pipes. As Mars steps closer, he notices a tablet leaning on the computer and a fizzy keyboard on the ground. He kneels and touches the shift key. The tablet lights up. Morrison Simulations. Mars is no expert in computers, but he recognizes a standard in quantum simulations. The screen shows the cross-section of an ant farm. It looks ultra-realistic. Countless ants crawl over each other, through their tunnels. They carry in leaf pieces. There is the queen ant. Kodak, are you around here, buddy? The side of the computer is open and wires hang out, leading to a pile of batteries. Parts and pieces in 2 piles look like parts of quantum computers. Comrades, I think Kodak fixed a quantum computer. He says this with disbelief. Before the storm, very few people on the planet could fix a quantum computer. Mars would have said one person alone could never fix one. How old is Kodak? 7, 8? Has he ever been to school? Soon after Mars finds the computer, the batteries die and the ant simulation cuts out. For several days, everyone searches for Kodak. Bonnie searches the hardest. She never stops searching. No one says what everyone thinks, that he went out the exit like Tanya. The group is now childless. In their bed together, Kalo whispers to Daisuke, "We failed our children." Daisuke blinks. "It's not like that," she says. "Half our population was children, and now..." He gently pats her shoulder. Many times a cave-in in the scrapyard has injured Mars. He still has a bruised hand from the last one. The buried scrap settles under mounds of wreckage, uprooted forests, and dust. Each time he removes something from the scrapyard, the material above loses support. The storm drops mostly plants, including entire trees. Organics rot, so the tones of material above always want to give way. It turns out accessing the scrapyard is nearly impossible. Mars has talked others into helping. They dig tunnels under the scrap and carve out chambers near the yard to sort and store salvaged goods. He can always pull an item from the yard, but he can't find or get to the particular items he needs. As an example, he needs flacking 150 barrels, that's all. He knows hundreds very common 150 barrels are in the yard. Finding and getting to them has taken more than a year. His original modest plan to start with a 10-barrel Stirling engine has come down to 6 because he needs to move on. Situations like this make him want to drink. On level 1, he clears out building 1, where the raging storm reverberates through his bones. Up here it gets so hot that sometimes his cool suit isn't enough and his link tells him he's in risk of getting heat stroke. He enzyme welds the 6 barrels to composite beams. With 3 others helping, he hoists the beams up to the ceiling. He builds an insulated layer between the upper third of the barrels and the lower two-thirds. Then he heavily insulates the room under that layer. The room grows quiet, and the interior looks like the inside of an igloo. Because the barrels penetrate the insulation, they'll have a hot side and a cooler side. Gas expands when heated and contracts when cooled. By creating a sealed system with a hot end and a cold end, and adding a displacer to move air between these temperature zones, the resulting pressure changes can drive a piston connected to a crankshaft, generating rotational mechanical energy. Part by part, he builds the Stirling engines. Each barrel needs a power cylinder, so he attaches hydraulic cylinders from a blimp to removable lids. For displacers inside each drum, he inserts temp-shielding aerogel on carb core discs. When the barrels are closed, 2 rods come off each, drive rods and displacer rods. These he attaches to camshafts. The camshafts attach to 3 truck flywheels. When Lane helps him adjust the rods and camshafts, he says, "This setup looks so steampunk." Mars tightens a bolt with a wrench. "Crap, this doesn't use steam. A steam engine would be completely impractical." Lane pushes the next rod his way. "Never mind, Mars." Then one day near dinner time, Mars makes an announcement over Link. "It's working! Come to House 1, don't wait." Practically everyone drops what they're doing and heads for House 1. They shout and run through the tunnels. As people step into House 1, they see rods pumping and flywheels spinning, making sounds from another era. Sparks, literally sparks, jump off the wire braids near the flywheels, but what hits them is the cold. The room is as cold as a freezer and the sun hasn't set yet. Mars sits on the floor grinning. Mounted to all the walls, pipes hold thin fins. Water droplets form on them and drip into long pans on the floor. Mars stands. "Are you the last one?" "Shut the door." He walks to a pan and pulls a pot out from under it. To Shar, standing nearest to him, he says, "Take a drink." She holds the pot to her lips. Drinks. Looking around with big eyes, she nods and says, "It's water." A big grin breaks out on her face. Mars says, "We're going to get drinking water from the air from now on. We're going to be all right. Don't cry for Grok's sake. But people are tearing up. Some sit and hold themselves. We aren't going to die." "Look how much water is dripping. It's like rain." Mars scratches his head. "And power too. Don't forget we're getting power." Bonnie isn't with the group. Everything changes. For a week, they all drink too much water. Mars hooks up a radio transmitter that blasts a buzz pattern on an unused channel, and an hour later, Brit lights throughout the tunnels come on all at once. After years in darkness, people become shy in bright light. Daisuke programs timers on the lights so they slowly come on at 7 in the evening and slowly dim to dark at 7 in the morning. On level 2, they insulate the largest room with 6 centimeters of micrete and install a heat pump. The heat pump pulls water from the air, helping to drop the temperature. Trinidad and Trey install a double door entrance. An air filter cleans the air and 2 mushroom trays add oxygen. Breathing clean air without respirators feels amazing. What a difference power makes. This becomes the sleeping room. They make bunk beds with privacy sheets over each one. Trinidad says, "This room is wonderful. Let's cool all the rooms." Trey says, "We need more power to do that." Kalo, liberated from 5 hours of pedaling each day, carries the bike down to one room near the scrapyard and leaves it there. She and Bonnie assemble the liquid sunlight and aeroponics equipment in a room on level 2. Bonnie says, "Mars told me about the quantum computer Kodak fixed. Do you think you can use it to engineer microbes?" Kalo avoids eye contact. "Perhaps." Lane, Char, and Denny charge robots and set them to work making clothes, cleaning dust, emptying bug traps, and making the food. Now that Mars has the help of 2 Hume-sized builder bots, he can salvage what he needs much faster. People start sponge bathing again and form couples, a phenomenon that nearly disappeared. Laughter can be heard in the tunnels. People start to plan and dream. Level 3 will be all enclosed, insulated, and air-conditioned. The second Stirling engine system can have more barrels. They can grow fresh veggies and fruit. They can make cake, soda, and even ice cream. Daisuke sounds a link alarm. "Flash flood! Everyone find a safe place." Within minutes, the rooms and tunnels flood with hot, muddy, oily water carrying all kinds of broken and sharp objects. Go to the sleeping room. It should be watertight. Mars, can you come up from scrap? Flash flood, flash flood.